Hello guys, welcome to another one. Today we're going to be doing practice on Palindrome. Basically, we want to understand JavaScript stacks a little bit better, and one of the most common interview questions for beginners is just identifying palindromes. Now, what is a palindrome? A palindrome is just a word, it could be a phrase, it could be a number that is the same forward, backwards. Yani, basically, a palindrome is the same even when reversed. That's just what it is. So, for example, for words, a good example of a palindrome is level. You see, when you reverse it, it's LEVE, it's the same. Another good example of a word palindrome would be race car, which is a very common one. If you reverse race car, it stays the same. Another good example of a word palindrome would be madam, my favorite. If you reverse madam, MADAMA, it's the same, right? Now, when it comes to numbers, a good example of a palindrome number would be 1 to 1. If you reverse 1 to 1, it's going to stay exactly the same, right? Another example of a word of a number would have to be maybe 45654. If you reverse it, it stays the same. And another example of phrases, if you reverse it character by character, sorry, a phrase like was it a car or a cat I saw is a palindrome, right? So now that we understand what a palindrome is, which is just a word, phrase, number, whatever that stays the same even when it's reversed, it becomes easy for us to write logic that is checking if the words that are passed is a palindrome. So here, before we create our function, I think it's important, once you identify your function logic, it's easy to create a function. So what is our function logic? Our function logic to check if word is palindrome is quite simple, right? Palindrome is quite basic because what we're checking is if the word is equal to or if it's the same as the word in reverse. So for example, if it's level, which we already know is a palindrome now, it should be same as level reversed. Right? So meaning our logic here, and if level is the same as level reversed, then it's a palindrome. If not, palindrome. If not, then it's not a palindrome. So this is our main goal. Palindrome. This is our main goal. So meaning, what do we want to achieve here? First, we want to reverse our words, right? Clearly, we want to reverse our words and then compare our words to reversed words. What else do we need to do in our function? So we need to reverse our words and then compare our words to reverse words. That's it, guys, right? And then the most important question is how now? How to reverse? How do we reverse? Obviously, these JavaScript functions should do that, but here we want to use a stack logic to reverse. So let's say you have a level L-E-V-E-L. How do you reverse it? So to reverse, we want to take the last character. Let's call it something that's not a palindrome so that we can easily see. Let's call it level. We want to reverse level. So we want each character to be reversed, right? So we want it to be now P, E, V, E, L. So to achieve this reversal, it means the last characters is what we want, right? The last characters to be removed and stored somewhere one by one as it's being removed, right? So if we have, again, I'll use another example. If we have popo, popo, pow pow. Okay, I know. If this is a good example, popo, like popo. Okay, so if you had one popo, we want to remove the last word, the last character. So we remove W, we store it. We remove A, we store it. We remove P, we store it. Whoa, 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 this is a bad example. We remove W, we store it. A, we store it, P, we store it. That is a terrible example, guys. But yeah, clean our minds. So, for example, that's what we want to achieve, right? Or if it is a word like eat or mango mango, we want to remove O and then store it somewhere. Here we have removed O, and then G, here we've removed G, and then N, here we've removed N, and then A, here we removed N, and then M, we've removed M. And then we're checking what we had initially. Is it the same as what we have in that place where we now reversed it? We now put one letter after another, which was before the last letter, right? So we want to check, is this the same as this? If it's the same, okay. If it's the same, palindrome. If it's not, not a palindrome. If not, not palindrome. That's just our logic. Pretty easy, right? So let's try to implement it now. So we're going to have a function, call it is palindrome. And this is palindrome. We're going to pass in a word, and then we have a function. So guys, from our function logic, this will guide us. We want to check if a word is palindrome, if a word, okay, meaning we have to store the reversed, right? So two things we are storing here. We have to store the reversed word, right? So we can start by instantiating, wow, that English word just left my mouth. Guys, English is not my first language. So we have to to define the reversed word. We can call it R word and just give it an empty string for now. And then after we have it as an empty string, what else do we want? Now we want to reverse. And how do we do that? We've already said we're going to remove the last word one by one and then store it and then check. So we're going to use an array for that. We can also initiate or define an empty array here. We can call it, what do we call it? Letters. Okay. And also use this. And here, you might be wondering, why do we need an array? Why not just manipulate the string, reverse it, and then compare? Because, guys, strings are immutable. Strings are immutable. Okay? Let me show you an example of what that means. That means if strings are immutable, if we have a word, for example, let pizza to be our word, right? In this case, we want to check if pizza is a palindrome. Let's use pizza. If our string is called pizza here, and we want to reverse it, okay? Let's string is equals to pizza, for example, and we want to reverse it, but strings are immutable. And if our approach is to remove the last word and then store them everywhere, right? That would mean that for strings, if I want to remove here the last character, it will have to be using the slice method. I'm sure you know about it, guys. So because it's the last character, want to reverse it to be -1. Okay. So this means because strings are immutable, every time we are operating on this string, it will create a new string. So if we console log string here, and this is just one, okay. So now if we console log string here and check on the console, let's just run. You see, we have peas. Now we don't have pizza. So the last character was removed. Can you imagine if we have to remove all the characters? We'd have to create a new string how many times, depending on the length of the character. For pizza, we'd have to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. If we want to get the last character for pizza now, we want the A, for example. It would have to be a new array completely. It would have to be let last character to be now string. Okay. And then remember we want string the last one, so it's string.length -1. So this should give us the last character. Wait, string last character. Oh, sorry, I logged the. Yeah. So if we log the last character here, I'm just gonna pull up my screen, my terminal, and now we have the A. So imagine if you have to do this for pizza. What if a word was as long as Reska was something very long, or a whole character? Was it a car or a cat that I saw? How many times would we have to get a new string? Many times. So it's not feasible for long words. It's not feasible for what we're trying to do here. That's why we have to use an array, because unlike strings that are immutable, an array can be manipulated without necessarily making us have an entirely new array. So for our case, we're going to store this into letters. So what we're going to do is very simple, guys, using the logic that we've already identified. And we're going step by step. And then at the end, we'll optimize the code. So if you already know this and you're looking at it now and you're like, oh, some things are missing, just wait, be patient. So we're going to use a for loop. So let's go for let's characters of this word that we've passed in. Character of our words. And then we're going to push them into letters. Okay. And again, because we're going step by step by step, we're going to console log letters. And I just want you to see now that indeed, and then we have to, now that we have letters there, we have to call this function, it's palindrome. And then we can pass in our argument here, we can pass in a word like what? I want one word that's not even a palindrome. A word like, let's just stick to pizza. A pizza, right? And then we can also call it again and then use a word that's actually a palindrome. A word like, as we mentioned before, level, right? Correct. So we can run this. Let's just put our terminal up a little bit. Let's run this and you can see, guys, this is what it's looking like. We have pizza in the array and then we have level in the array. And so here, what we're basically doing is getting each character of word and pushing them to an array. That's what we've done so far. So the next step, we can go back to our logic here. It's to reverse. Okay, so here we want to reverse, and we've already identified our reversing method is to remove the last character and then save it somewhere. Then the next character and then save it somewhere. Then the next character and then save it somewhere. Now that will be reversing, right? So what we can do again, like I said, guys, we'll clean up later. Let character of word, which is just us iterating through word, right? So what we want now is, remember this that we had already defined here at word as an empty string. We want it now to be the one that will store those numbers as we're removing them, right? So as we're removing the letters, the last letter, using this array method called letters.pop. And guys, you can look this up more, array methods, but letters.pop just basically removes, .pop method just removes the last item on the array. So we are saying that last item on the array is you remove it. Save it to our word, one by one is you remove it. So meaning, if we console log now, if we now console log the R word, it should show us, now let's just do R word. Let's console log R word, and then I'm just gonna get rid of that console, keep the comments, and we can console log R word. Just gonna push up the terminal up. So here we've console logged R word, and we have R word a zip. That is the one that had pizza. And then R word level here is the one that had level, because remember we already know level is a palindrome. So guys, we already have things to compare, right? We already have this as the reversed, and then we have this as the letters, as the initial word, right? So which then means we are ready to compare our word and our reversed word, right? So what we're gonna do is just say if, okay, if our word, if it's the same as our reversed word, then we've already identified that this is a palindrome, right? So we can just console log that, put in some curly braces, and we can just identify that word is a palindrome. Like, else, let us just know that you're not a palindrome. Is not a palindrome. Okay, so that's it. This should work. Let's check for pizza, for level. We can also add another thing. We can add some of our is palindrome. Let's check. No, let's check for this first because I want to show you something. You can also check for 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Okay, let's check. And if we console, it tells us pizza is not a palindrome. Okay, pizza is not a palindrome. Level is a palindrome, which is true. 1 to 1 is a palindrome, which is true. Now this looks like we're done, right? But what happens if I want to check? Remember we said Madame is a palindrome, right? So what happens if I want to check Madame? And then let's run the code and see what we find. So if I want to check if Madame is a palindrome, it tells me Madame is not a palindrome. Could you figure this out? Why would it say that? Well, the answer is that the palindromes are case sensitive. So this means with madam, what's happening here is that it's checking for madam, and when you reverse this, it will be madam. So the capital M at the start then becomes at the end, and this are not the same. So what we want to be checking instead is madam and madam, because madam is a palindrome, meaning we'd have to change our words to lowercase. Okay, so this word, what we want to do is we can define checked word. Okay, we can call it, so we have to word dot lowercase, which is a function that you can access for strings. And then we'd have to replace the checked word everywhere where we had put word. Okay, so there you have it. Now if we run this again, madam is now a palindrome. Okay, so we also want to check for cases where probably we have a space. So for example, what if we do madam like this? Okay, is madam a palindrome? No. Or if it's just madam, capital, small letters. Is this a palindrome? Let's find out. It's not a palindrome. Well, what makes it not a palindrome is because of the space. So we also have to check for spaces. Now here we'll just use a regex method, which you can easily Google, guys. So we want to use regex. You don't need to cram it. You can easily access it. So this regex method is just simply saying where there's between A to Z, which is an alphabet, and then between 0 to 9, which are letters, right? Replace the empty, like remove the empty spaces, right? So now if we check madam like this, after we add the regex method, our result is that madam is now a palindrome. So guys, that's it. And now we can just optimize the code. We can take a look at the code and then just optimize it, see the best things to do. So if you take a look at our code, you can find some things that we can work on. For example, a good rule for writing good code is dry. Do not repeat yourself. So you can see here, there's a little bit of repetition here and here, right? Here and here there's repetition. And also remember, another rule of code is don't have things that you're not using in the code. So for example, on line 33, we're not using character. So easily there, what we need to do then is to use a while statement. And we can easily check because here letters we've already pushed, right? So you can also just check, okay? As long as letters, there's something in the letters array, letters is greater than 0, then do this. And now our code should be optimized and ready for use. Thank you guys. I will have this on GitHub if you need it. I hope this was a thorough tutorial on palindromes. See you on the next one. Thank you. Bye.